So there's something very unique about that tefillah, and we'll see about very short tefillah, but it has a lot of things. We learn halachot from that, and we learn about Hashem's providence also from that. So we all read chapter Aleph, Perek Aleph, and in Perek Aleph basically we see a story of a devastation really, where you have Chana and Pnina is mocking Chana. Not only do they live parallel lives, but Pnina is getting into the life of Chana. So it's like, making her jealous and going in her face and really shoving this harsh reality in her face. And it pains Chana very, very much, to the point that she didn't want to eat, and she didn't want to rejoice, and she didn't want to be happy, even in the festive times that they would be happy. Now we learn a lot of halachot from how Chana related herself to her family. There's halachot from that. But the Ralbag also speaks about that later on, and we can learn from the Ralbag. He has about 28 lessons from Chana and the specialty of Chana. 28 lessons, and then another one he has more than 30, but we could speak about that at a certain time. But we just want to recap a little bit about what happened. So they would go up to Shiloh. They would go to where the temporary temple was. And she made a vow that to Hashem, don't forget me. Well, before that, she went over there and she prayed. She didn't give up. She prayed, and Eliah Cohen sees her and he says, "What do you like? You're moving your lips, but you're not making a sound." And he thought she was drunk. She said, "I'm not drunk." By the way, we learn the halachot of tefillah from Chana, that you have to move your lips. Now, there's the Mishnah says, there's the Mishnah in Masechet Brachot that says, if you read the Shema and you didn't hear what you were saying, did you or did you not do the mitzvah? Machloket in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi and Chachamim say that you didn't do the mitzvah. Rabbi Yossi says you did the mitzvah. And the halacha is that it's better to hear what you're saying, not to an extent that you're troubling people that are next to you, but softly. But if you recited, the ultimate truth is that if you said a tefillah and you moved your lips and you didn't even hear what you said, but you just moved your lips, that's good enough. So tefillah means moving your lips. You can't pray in your head. Now you could. When you're driving, when you're thinking, you could speak to Hashem in your mind, yeah? But the tefillah, that let's say I want to say Shema this evening, and I want the mitzvah, I have to move my lips. So we learn that from Chana, says the Ralbag. That's one of the things that we learn from Chana. We also learn, Eli thought she was drunk. She says, "I'm not." So she cleared her name. Meaning, she could have just ignored what he said, right? She said, "Well, I just wanted to say something." No, she went ahead and she cleared her name. She said, "I'm not drunk. I'm not intoxicated. This is what's happening. This is what I'm going." We also learned that he gave her a blessing, and it worked. So a person that we can also go to people that are very close to Hashem. What makes a person close to Hashem? We're all close to Hashem. But we do things that bridge us closer through a lot of mitzvot, a lot of Torah, holiness, and the prayer works. And by the way, there's a beautiful thing that my rabbi said. I remember this when I was like 14 in yeshiva. He said about this story, that Chana was crying, and then Eli blessed her, and he said, "Don't worry, Hashem gave you your wish." Yeah? How did he say Hashem gave you your wish? A wish it could be bakasha, like bevakasha, please, like a wish, bakasha. Or it could be she'elah, to ask for something, she'elah. But Eliah Cohen didn't say Hashem filled your she'elah. He said Hashem filled shelatech, misspelled. Not she'elatech, your question. He says shelatech, without an aleph. Shin lamed taf chaf. What is that? And it's in Pasuk Yud Zayin 17, correct. Vayan Eli vayomer lechi leshalom ve'elo Yisrael yiten et shelatech asher sha'alt mimo. He'll give you your shelatech. Who knows what a shelah is? Shelah. It's supposed to be she'elah, but it's shelah. Shelatech. מה זה shelatech? So we also know from Yehuda, right? He had his daughter-in-law was Tamar, and then his two sons died, and then he told her, okay, go home, Adigdal Shela Beni, until Shela, my son, will grow. He had a little boy, but he wasn't old enough. He told her, go, whatever, when my son Shela will, but that's not the same reference here. So my rabbi said that back then, but Rashi says it over here, Shela Techaser Aleph, missing an Aleph, Lidrosh bo lashon banim, kemo uveshiliyata yotzet miben regleh. So a shiliyah, what is a shiliyah? Is it an embryo? Is that what it is, the shiliyah? Anyways, it's the embryo. So he hinted that to her. He's like, right now, you'll see you'll be blessed. So, yeah, you go to a prophet. Today we don't have prophets, but somebody like a big chacham, someone great, there's something that happens there in the tefillot. Anyways, then she has a child and she calls him Shemuel because everybody wanted to call their child Shemuel because they heard of that. But she really called him Shemuel for the right reason. Why did she call him Shemuel? Because she had a reason. Ki me'Hashem she'iltiu, because I asked him from God. But you know, what is a shoel? You know what a shoel is? In halacha? A shoel. What? So in Mishnah or in Gemara, there's shoel is a question, but a shoel is also a borrower.
A what?
To borrow, or like somebody that is borrowing something, a shoel. You're borrowing something without, you're not renting it with payment, you're borrowing an item. So she said, you know why I'm calling him Shemuel? I'm just borrowing him from Hashem. And she made a condition with Hashem before he was born. She said, you know Hashem, if you let me, lend me a child for a couple of years, I'll lend me the child and I'll give him back to you. And she said, he will serve you his whole life. I'll make sure that I'll do whatever I can to have him serve you his whole life. And the deal works. Says the Ralbag, we can also make deals with Hashem. It's not give and take. But we also learned that from Yaakov Avinu. When Yaakov was running away from Esav, he didn't have what to eat, he didn't have shelter, and he was trying to, make his life. Aser Asrenu. He said, Hashem, if you help me build myself again, Kol asher titen li, aser aserenu lach. Anything you give me, I'll give you 10% from it. Well, he said it twice. Maybe he meant 20%. I don't know. Maybe aser aserenu, right? So maybe he even meant 20%. So he said, he made a deal with Hashem. And then he said, I'll come back over here and I'll give an offering to you. And by the way, our Chachamim learned from that. We can also, if we need something, Hashem, listen, please help me. And if you help me, I'll do X, Y, Z. I'll do this and this and that. And so on and so forth. And sometimes it could be in the form of, if you help me, I will publicize the miracle. Do you know that if you go around in Israel, even in New York, you're in a bus stop and then you see a sign like what? Somebody's selling like a new shampoo or something. What's the sign over here? You look at the sign. It says, I promised that if I don't know what, find a job, then I'll publicize the miracle. And I read Tehillim or whatever, so I'm doing it. My name is Tzipi Levy, and this is what happened. I see it all the time. And sometimes it's in the newspaper. People pay money for the little classified ads. They're like, I went to Meron to pray for my mother's thing, and it worked, and I'm advertising it. Like it's something there. So it's like you're not making deals with Hashem, but you're doing like Yaakov Avinu, like Chana Avinu. So Ralbag says that as well. Hey, if you're ever in a situation, you could take something upon yourself, or say, Hashem, please, I'll do this mitzvah, but please help me with this, because I really know I really believe in this, or I really want, so on and so forth. Okay, fine.
Rabbi, in the English, they said that that she lent him to God, that God didn't really lend him to her. And she lent him to God.
In 17, yeah. Well, it could be that it's translated that way.
Okay.
But in Hebrew, it's Ki me'Hashem she'iltiv, because I borrowed him from God.
Okay.
I mean, that's she'iltiv. Me Hashem, from Hashem she'iltiv. But it could be that she's lending him to God, but that's kind of not in line with the earlier psukim. So, okay. Anyway, so that happens. But that's a nice observation. Thank you for sharing that. Anyway, so that happens, right? So that happens. And then Fine. After she has a child, she made a promise she's going to give it to Hashem. She brings him to the Beit HaMikdash. Yeah? She brings him to the Beit HaMikdash, to the same Kohen, Eli, that blessed her that time that, this is going to happen. And then in verse 28, Donna, I don't know if you were on 28 before, but in 28 it does say that V'gam anochi shiltiu Hashem, I'm lending him to God. So she says that over there.
Right.
Asher, in 28. So on 17 I borrowed him from God, and on 28 I'm lending him to God. Okay, meaning I'm giving him back to God. Now, Vatitpalel Chana is that special prayer of Chana in the beginning of Perek Bet. Vatitpalel Chana v'tomar alatz libi b'Adonai ramah karmi b'Adonai rachav pi al oivai ki samachti b'shuatecha. So he says, alatz libi b'Hashem, my heart rejoices in God. Ramah karni, a karen is a horn. The horn of an animal is something that they have a force, the strongest force that they can gore, that they can attack with, that they can protect themselves. So she says, with the strongest element that I have, I will thank you, which is just like an animal's maybe horns, with my mind, with my head, with my neshama, I'm thanking you all for that. Because I rejoiced in your salvation. And she says, my mouth has widened over my enemies. So the Ralbag over here says, Liotam tamid nuflim biyado kol yemei Shemuel. So she said, what enemies did she have? She says, later on, her son, she saw in prophecy. By the way, this is a prophecy. Our sages over here explained that this song that she had is a prophecy. And one of the things that she's prophesizing is that when Shemuel is going to grow and going to be a prophet in Israel, and by the way, Shemuel also wrote the book of Shoftim, because he was a judge. He was also a judge. So he's in a very interesting time. Most commentators believed he only lived 52 years. But he lived from some of the time of the other Shoftim into the time of King Saul, which we're going to learn about, Shemuel Aleph, with Eliah Cohen and everything. And she saw that Shemuel Hanavi is going to help the Jewish people in their wars. And by the way, the Philistines and the Amoraim, whenever they went to war with the Jews and they saw that Shemuel was giving a sacrifice, they're like, okay, wow, they knew that his sacrifices were so great. So, going to the next pasuk, En kadosh kadonai ki metecha v'tzur keloinu, there's no one holy like Hashem, and there's no rock, there's no spur, there's no stone like Hashem. This is a pasuk we say every Shabbat. We say when we take out the Sefer Torah, En kadosh k'Hashem, ki en biltecha v'tzur keloinu. Al tarbu tedaberu gevoa gevoa. Do not speak high, high.
It's the third sentence.
This is verse 3. Don't speak very high. What does that mean? That goes on Pnina. Pnina was again mocking Chana. Imagine Chana how she felt. And she's like, yeah, Pnina was mocking me. She was speaking high, high because she had everything she wanted. And so all the people that go and they get super inflated, wrong. Because the ending of that is not always a good ending. Yetzeh atak mipichem. Don't take all these things out of your mouth. Why? Ki el deot Adonai velo nitkenu alilot. Hashem is the God of knowledge, the God of planning. And He knows all the alilot, all the combinations and all the twirling events and the variables and the things that happen. I did this and that went there and this went there and that went there and came back. Hashem knows ultimately the end of the story. And sometimes the beginning of the story has a few chapters that are not, they don't really go away. But alilot, it's an alilah. It's how do you say alilah?
The story.
It's a story, right? It's a narrative. It's part of the narrative. It's part of the beginning narrative, which will ultimately change. And there's a reason for all that. Alilah. El Noah alilah amtzilanu mechila.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I
exactly,
was thinking in my head when you said
Yeah.
the word.
קשת גיבורים חטאים ונכשלים עזר וחיל, שבעים בלחם נזכרו, רבים חדלו, עד הכרה ילדה שבעה ורבת בנים אומללה. So he says over here, until the woman that didn't have children had 7 of them, ורבת בנים אומללה, and the Pnina that had a lot of them, אומללה, she became miserable. Pnina, all her children died. Because of the way she treated Chana. All of her children died. Huh?
Wow.
The way she treated. Now, I'm not here to talk about Pnina or anybody. I'm sharing what I read, not me to say or judge or anything, but that's part of the way that she saw it. Adonai memitu b'chayim mori sheol vayal. This is a very famous pasuk. Hashem brings us to life, and Hashem brings life, takes away life. So anything in between that and within that and in the life that we have, or the good times or the success or all that thing, it's all from Hashem. So why should anyone take any credit or pride or anything over that? Hashem morishu ma'ashir mashpilaf meromem. Hashem makes a person have more, have less. These are very famous psukim. I don't know if you heard these psukim in other times or said it. Very famous. Super, like we use them all the time. Mekim ma'afardan mashpiturim hevion. This is used in Chabad every day. Mekim ma'afardan, mekim. Mekim ma'afardan mashpiturim hevion. Leoshivim nedivim v'chisei kavod yanchilem ki l'Adonai mitzu ke'eretz v'ashet alem tevel. Another one. Raglei chasidav yishmor. Hashem protects the feet or the legs of the chasidim, his chasidim. A chasid is a person that goes after Hashem, even when it's not easy, and goes beyond the letter of the law. What does beyond the letter of the law mean? It means you could get away with less, but you do it the right way. That's a chasid. Kadosh Baruch Hu is shomer, right? Shomer, raglei chasidav yishmor. Yeah? Shomer Hashem et kol avav et kol Hashem yeshvi. Those that love Hashem, they're the chasidim, and he protects them. And he protects their feet. And David HaMelech also said, sometimes he goes out of his house, he thinks he's going to go to the field, and then he finds himself in the Bet Midrash. So his feet are leading him to like the good places. Like Kadosh Baruch Hu is kind of leading the people that love him and that he loves, he leads them to good places. There's a pasuk on Mashiach right now. Adonai yechatu merivav alav b'shamayim yarim Adonai yadi nafsei aretz v'yiten oz lemalko v'yarem kerem neshicho. He'll give oz, he'll give koach to his melech, to his Mashiach. And that's the whole story of Chana. Now we're continuing. Pasuk Yud Aleph verse 11. Vayelech Elkanah ramata al beto ve'anar haya mesharet et Adonai et penei Eli HaKohen. So Elkanah and left. They leave their son with Eli HaKohen near the Bet HaMikdash. And he's with Eli HaKohen. Uvnei Eli bnei Belial. Now you have a problem. The children of Eli are the bnei Belial. Belial means they're up to no good. They're corrupt. They're corrupt. And we're going to see what they did. Basically, whenever they did a couple of bad things. Number one is that, people came to bring their sacrifices. And when you bring your sacrifice, there are different types of korbanot. Some korbanot are all to be burnt completely. Some korbanot are burnt and also given to the Kohen. Some korbanot are burnt and given to a little bit to the Kohen and then to the person that brought them. Now when the Kohen takes their part, first they have to make sure that the korbanot are brought onto the altar, and then whatever needs to be done, and then that's placed there, and then the Kohen, whatever is meant to be given to the Kohen, they take it. The children of Eli HaKohen, they're like, no, first we take. And that is, they're putting themselves before Hashem. So there's that's one thing that they did. Secondly, another problem with that is that it was left over, and then it's just, even what needed to be offered on the altar, they didn't put it on the altar. So it would spoil. And that's very degrading. And thirdly, another thing that they did is that, some people had to bring a sacrifice, and they made them wait there for so long, because they're like, I'm busy, I'm not helping you. And so people had to sleep on the floor overnight, and they couldn't go back home because they had the korban, they had the offering, and they're waiting to give it, and they're like stuck, and they're not going back home, and they're sleeping there. And they did it to a lot of women after they had children, that she needed to bring a korban, and they didn't let them, and she's scared to go back. They were evil. They were evil kids. They were bad. Why were they evil? The Ralbach speaks about that. Why they were evil.
Because they had a nice dad, right?
Correct.
It doesn't always work out that way.
It doesn't always work out that way. And later we're going to see, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll get there. I'm sorry to share this with you, but Shemuel Anavi is a great prophet. His children also don't turn out good. But right now we're talking about the children of Eli HaKohen. So he has a foster child called Shemuel. Eli HaKohen has a foster child. The foster child is a good boy, And his own biological children are evil, evil. And it says in the Pasuk, not only did they do that, it says, Et anashim hatzoveot, ובני אלי בני בליה לא ידעו את אדוני ומשפט הכהנים את העם כל איש זובח זה והחובה נער הכהן כבשל הבשר והמזלג 3 ימים בידו. So they used to take with the mazleg, with the fork, the meat that they wanted. ויקע בקיור, this is how they did it, whatever. וגם here. גם בטרם יקטירו את החלב, before they gave it to Hashem, they told whoever's bringing the offering, give me meat, and if you don't give it to me, I'm going to forcefully take it away from you. And then the person bringing the offering is like, I'll give it to you, but let me, put it on the altar. He said, no, I want it first. And so the Ralbag says, V'yineh b'nei Eli hayu reshaim, they were evil. U'bilti yodim Hashem itbarach, they didn't know Hashem. Ve'lezot hasiba hayu rodfim achei hazolelot. You know why they ran after their desires? Because they didn't know Hashem. They didn't want to know Hashem. They didn't know Hashem. They didn't do this for Hashem. They were born into priesthood, so they were there, but they didn't do this from their heart. והיו מפני זה לוקחים מישראל יותר חוקה מבשר של עמים שהוא חזה ושוק. The Kohen only could take the chazeh, which is the top part, and the shok, which is one of the legs, the hinds. But they took way more than that. And so that shows, says the Ralbag, ועשו להם הכהנים חוק ומשפט שהיו לוקחים מהבשר שבישלו ישראל וישלמו כל אשר עליה המזלג. And they said, I'm not only going to take this part in the leg, they made like a big fork, and they stuck it into where all the meat was, and they made sure that they could take a lot more. So stealing in the temple from holy meat that's supposed to be offered. It's hard to really understand this. But that's what they did, okay? This shows us what? Let's see what he did. Let's see what he did. That's a good question. That's a very good question. Right? Anyways, ותהי חטאת הנערים גדולה מאוד את פני אדוני כי ניחצו אנשים את מנחת אדוני שמואל משל את פני אדוני נחגו אפוד בית. So they were very bad, but at the same time, the foster kid, Shemuel, was a good man. Mesharet et penei Hashem. He served Hashem. He really served Hashem. He was there to serve Hashem. Nar chagur ephod bad. He was a young man. Chagur ephod bad. He had a ephod. He had like a robe and a knot thing, maybe a belt from bad. ומעיל קטון תעשה לו עמו ועלתה לו מימים ימים ועבלתה את אישה לסבוח את זבח הימים. His mom made him a small מעיל, a small coat. By the way, these little kids never wore a coat in the Bet HaMikdash. These coats were for the Kohen. But his mom made him a coat. Says the Ralbag, she dressed him in a way that was holy. And from here we learn that it's never strange or too soon, or too young, or to educate ourselves, or the people that we know, or to help people. Say, you could do more. Do more. Get used to more. And so Shemuel, from when he was 2 years old, even before he went to the Bet HaMikdash, his mom used to tell him, okay, see your dad? You know how he's doing modim? Do that. He's like, but what is it? Just do it. And he did it, and he got used to it. So he was always there. And now she made him a ephod. I think the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat said that this ephod grew with Shemuel. He had the same gown that from when he was a little kid he grew with it. You know why? Because his mom made it for him with full faith and emunah and with full love and passion and sacrifice, and it grew with him. And so that's what it says over here. Now look at this. וברך אלי את אלקנה ואת אשתו ואמר ישם השם לחזר מהאיש. Okay? Verse 22. ואלי זקן מאוד, and Eli was very old. You see Eli was very old? Very old. ושמע את כל אשר יעשון בניו לכל ישראל. He heard. You asked the question, didn't he know? He heard. את כל אשר יעשו בניו לכל ישראל. This is very sad. ואת אשר ישכבון את הנשים הצובעות פתח אוהל מועד. And that they laid with the woman at Tzoveot. Now, what does it mean that they laid with them? There's two explanations. One explanation is that they didn't really lay with them, that they didn't take their offering, so they forced the woman to lay on the floor the whole night, only until the next day to bring their offering, and then they couldn't go back home. So they delayed them from leaving and from going back to the house. So that was seen as if they laid with them. And the second one says the Radak, Rabbi David Cordovero, Kimchi, sorry, what am I saying? Kimchi. Kemashmao. They literally, did improper things.
Wow.
They were evil. Anyways, so he heard this. You think he didn't hear this? He did hear it. Ve'eli shomea. Ve'eli zaken me'od v'shama et kol asher ya'asun banav. What do you mean v'shama? How did he hear it? So he says over here, he heard it. Actually, not only did he hear it, he said, you know what a shmuah is in Hebrew? Shmuah? Rumor. He says, hey, they're talking about you guys. The whole place is talking about these boys that are serving the Beit HaMikdash. Not only am I hearing it, there's a rumor that it's already known and known and known, and this is the way how you guys are behaving. But he couldn't control them. Why are you doing this? Al banai, please my children, don't do this. So he told them, don't do this. It's not good what I'm hearing. And so he says, if a person will sin to God, if a person will sin to another person, so a judge can, maybe encounter between the two. But if a person sins to God, who's going to help him? You have to just stop the sins and become better. Anyways, they were so sinful that Hashem didn't even want them to do tshuva. He's like, these guys they just need to die. And also, so people could learn how grave it is to take the food from the altar, the holy food and stuff like that, in the temple and so on and so forth. But at the same time, once again, verse 26. The Nar Shmuel goes and is even becoming greater and better. Gam im Hashem v'gam im ha'anashim. Everyone loves him. Also Hashem loves him, and also the people love him. And now either Elkanah or Pinchas are coming to Eli, and they're saying, hey, your kids have a really bad reputation. This is bad. You have to stop this. And he can't control his kids. He can't control them.
So he didn't do anything.
He couldn't. He couldn't control
What do
them.
you mean he couldn't?
It appears that he could not have. It appears that he was in a state that he told them, but they were so. By the way, he was very old and he was blind. He was semi-blind. He was elderly. He was geriatric at this age, and maybe that was his limitation. Maybe he had other limitations, but he's trying to rebuke them, and they're not listening.
Who was Elokim?
Very good question. Ish Elokim, which is in verse 27, there's somebody rebuking Eli. He's saying, hey, your children, you got to do something here. So according to Metzudat David, according to Rashi, it's Elkanah. The same Elkanah that Eli helped in the past, now he's coming back to Eli and he said, hey, what's going on? Because he was a prophet. And according to the Ralbag, it wasn't Elkanah, it was actually Pinchas. From a long time ago, Pinchas, the son of Elaz, the grandson of Aaron HaKohen. I don't know. It doesn't really add up to me, but that's what he says.
Maybe Elkanah was a Gilgal.
Maybe it was the same person. Could be. Elkanah was a Levi, and Pinchas was the chef from the tribe of Levi, so it could be. But either way, that's what's happening over here, and he's rebuking him. And now he's telling him, hey, Hashem is not going to forgive your children, and your family is finished from the priesthood. You guys are done. Anyways, Hashem promised that he's going to cut off your family from the priesthood and so on and so forth. And you will not have blessing anymore in your house. And that's pretty much what's happening here towards the end of the chapter. And then he tells him, this prophet, either it's Elkanah or Pinchas, he says, your his two children, he told him, they're going to die. And he will die. He's telling him this. To never see his family continue the legacy of priesthood. Done. Now in chapter 3, which we don't have, Bezat Hashem will do next week, Shemuel Navi is also getting a prophecy like this, and he's scared to tell Elkanah that he heard this prophecy about his children, because then it's really, wow. And not Elkanah, he's scared to tell Eli. So eventually Eli tells him, just tell me what Hashem told you. And he has to tell him the story. and then we read about what transpires from Eli and his 2 children, how they eventually die, and how Eli dies, and what happens with Shemuel and the outcome of that. And hopefully next week we could do from chapter 3, hopefully through the end of chapter 7, so we can see, or we might not have enough time for all of that, to see more details of that, and what the Radak has to say about, somebody asked, how could it be, that these are the children of Eli, right? But there's a strong lesson there. Yeah.
Is it an action of Rachamim that Hashem didn't give Eli his own prophecy about his children, but he heard it from a messenger, not strict? Because he was a
Wow.
as well.
He was also a prophet. That's a very good question.
So he could have heard it straight from Hashem. So the question